Well, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor. And today we're going to be talking about another one of my very favorite writers. And today we're going to be talking about Dashiell Hammett. Dashiell Hammett, one of the great pulp detective writers who became a great writer in general. As you can see, he's sitting right here in a Library of America volume, so you know he made it into the canon. And he deserved it because he's fantastic. We all talk about Hemingway and Hemingway's prose. Well, listen, Hemingway was building on Dashiell Hammett's foundations because this guy had a fantastic, spare, to-the-point prose style. And it was great. Now, Dashiell Hammett was born May 29th, 1894, and he was actually a real live detective. He was employed by the Pinkerton Detective Agency for years, and so when he wrote his detective fiction, he knew what he was talking about, and man, you can tell. So today I'm mostly going to be talking about the Continental Op and the Maltese Falcon, but everything he wrote was great. And most what I have Hammett in are in these two Library of America volumes. One of them doesn't have a dust jacket because I got it used. But this is his complete novels. And he wrote, his novels are Red Harvest, The Dane Curse, The Maltese Falcon, The Glass Key, that was another great one, and The Thin Man, legendary The Thin Man. So all his novels are great. They're all available in this wonderful Library of America volume. And listen, I've had this for decades, literally. And this thing, Library of America, they make great books. Their books really hold up. And I also have the crime stories and other writings, the second volume that Library of America came out. Another fantastic volume. Great set to have if you're interested in this guy. But then, of course, they're all available in paperback too. So Dashiell Hammett, he started off in the pulp magazine, specifically Black Mask magazine, which was originally kind of a general adventure-y type of pulp magazine, but eventually kind of went right into specializing in detective and mystery fiction, and it was legendary. One of the standout legendary pulp magazines of its day. And Dashiell Hammett's first character was the Continental Op, which was just a classic detective character, spoke first person, the way we're used to detective characters doing their own stories because we're so used to Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe and everything that came after that. He wasn't the first to do this, but he was the first to raise this type of story to the level of great literature. And his first character was the Continental Op, was in a series of short stories, and then made it into a couple of novels. And the stories are great, and the novels are fantastic. His first novel was Red Harvest, starring the Continental Op. This little short, tubby guy who's tough as nails, a great detective. We never learn his name. He's just the Continental Op. So he's literally the man with no name, which, that's kind of interesting because if you watch the films Yojimbo and later on Fistful of Dollars, both those films owe an awful lot to Red Harvest. The story is pretty much the same. The Red Harvest is just a hard-hitting, great noir detective story, lots of blood, lots of violence, lots of action, high body count. Red Harvest, an apt name. The next Continental Op book was The Dane Curse, and I can't even describe that plot. It's out there, but it's great. That was the finale of the Continental Op stories, his first great detective series. Now, lucky us, we can get all of these stories in this big, fantastic book. This is the big book of the Continental Op by Dashiell Hammett. I jumped for joy when this came out because literally I had waited decades for this collection. This is every Continental Op story, every one, and we've got the original magazine serialized versions of Red Harvest. It was originally called The Cleansing of Poisonville, and that's what we get in here. And we get the original stories, which the Dane Curse was based on, because the Dane Curse was based on 3 stories that was later transformed into a novel, the way they did it back in those days. So this is fantastic. Great book. It's really big too. All double columned like these vintage crime Black Lizard big books are. So highly recommend this. His original series of detective stories. So then Hammett moved on to his standout work. The work we mostly think about, and the character we mostly think about when we think about Dashiell Hammett. That is Sam Spade and the Maltese Falcon. I'm going to try to talk about this without spoilers, although that seems silly, because awful lot of us, if not most, well, nowadays you're all kids, probably a lot of us have seen the movie, but a lot of us, I guess haven't. Fix that. So the Maltese Falcon, the novel, we all know the movie with Humphrey Bogart was based on this novel, really closely too. Great detective novel that really changed things in detective fiction. It was a great literary work of art. Just the way it was done. The plot is complex. It's a sophisticated novel with adult characters, with adult motivations. It was beyond the pulp that it was originally in. And of course, it's right here in the middle of this Library of America volume. And the fascinating thing about the Maltese Falcon, if we just won't talk about the plot at all, because you should read that book, and I don't want to surprise you or destroy the surprise. But the great thing about it is the way it was written. It's so different than the way we look at, or the way some books are written now. Now, especially, we're so used to books with POV characters, multiple characters. It switches from one character to the other. You're always getting different points of view. You're always in the character's thoughts. That doesn't happen in this book. What's interesting about this book is you're following Sam Spade, the detective, but you never know what's in his head. And you get the idea real quick early in the book that this is not a squeaky clean guy. This is a character we don't know if he's really bad or good or in the middle, because the more we learn about him, this guy's a little bit shady here and there, and so we never really know his motivations. The way this book is structured, we see everything everybody does. We hear the dialogue. Everything is there, but we never get in here. We never get in any of the characters' heads. We never know what anybody's thinking. We don't know what secrets they are keeping. We don't know what lies they are telling. None of the characters in this book, including Sam Spade, are trustworthy. And we get that idea really quick. We love tough guy Sam Spade, but what's he keeping from us? What's going on in there? We don't know. And so when it finally gets to the fantastic ending, and it's fantastic, if we hadn't seen the movie, we don't know what's coming. We don't know how it's really going to end because we don't know this guy. He's cool, but we don't know him. So we don't know what to expect from him. So it's a really interesting way that it's written. It's really interesting to read it now when we're so used to a very different way that novels are written. Like I said, so used to being in anybody's head, POV, we all, POV characters, we all know that term just because we're so used to it. And that's the way books are written. Doesn't happen here. Dashiell Hammett's books are cool that way. He keeps the mystery in his mysteries. And there's a couple different ways you can get this book. I showed you the Library of America book, but I also want to show you this because this is fantastic. This is the Black Lizard big book of Black Mask stories. And as I was telling you, Black Mask was the original pulp that Hammett stories were presented in, but Raymond Chandler as well, and a gazillion other writers. They started off in Black Mask, and this big book of Black Mask stories is fantastic because it's gigantic. It's really big. It's like well over 1,000 pages long of double space type. I mean, it'll take you like months to get through this thing, and you'll have a great time every day of it. But the reason I'm showing you this big guy is because in this book, you get the original magazine version of the Maltese Falcon, which is a little bit different from the published book version. So of course you want to read them both. Of course you do. I'm not the only one, right? No, everybody does. And so this is great. It's great to read this novel exactly as it was originally presented, and you can. Now that we got this fantastic Black Lizard big book of Black Mask stories. This was edited by Otto Penzler, who does a ton of these big books on different subjects, usually detective-y type of stuff, but he's also got one about adventure stories. He's got a ghost book. He's got a vampire book. Man, he does a lot of great big books, and this one is amazing. And like I said, it's worth it just to get the original Maltese Falcon all on its own. So definitely check out Dashiell Hammett. Now, a lot of you guys are like, well, I don't know, Mike. I don't really like detective stories. I'm not really into mysteries. Nah, check this guy out. He might change your mind. Yeah, there was a time I wasn't really into mysteries either. And then I read Dashiell Hammett, and he changed my mind. I mean, because this is, even whether you like genre-y stuff or whether you just like great American literature or great literature of any kind, you have to read this guy, you know? This was a great American writer. And he didn't get any worse because after that, he wrote The Glass Key, which was amazing. That was a great book about friendship and mystery and what you would do for a friend. How far would you go to help a friend? Check out The Glass Key just for that. And of course, The Thin Man, what can you not say about The Thin Man? The Thin Man was great. So Dashiell Hammett, great writer. He was a detective, so he knows what he's talking about. He died on January 10th, 1961. He didn't write that much. He stopped writing after a while and just never really picked it back up again. He had a lot of trouble in his life. He was an alcoholic, and that dogged him to the end of his days. He had a lot of trouble with his politics because he was living during the Red Scare, and he happened to be a communist at one point, and he was thrown in jail because of it. Now, whatever you think of that, as I always say, can't judge a guy by that. Can't judge a writer by that. Judge him by his work. And his work was fantastic. I cannot recommend this guy highly enough. Those Continental Op stories, the Maltese Falcon, all his novels, just wonderful. So do yourself a favor and check out this guy, Dashiell Hammett. He's amazing. So there you go. Thank you for coming by and spending time with me. Once again, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you spending your time with me, hearing me ramble on about my favorite books and authors. And I will come back and do it again right here at stately Vaughan Manor. See you guys.